I've been refurbishing my carburetors on the Daimler Dart, and I'm putting together the best parts that I can into these existing carburetors. And interestingly, I've had a set of carburetors from a Saloon version of the V8, and there's quite a few differences which I hadn't appreciated, I must admit, before I started. So I thought I'd just go through them here as I've found them in the process of going through this rebuild. Firstly, the main body of the carbs, they are the same, it would seem. They're all AUC 708 0 and 7081, depending on the left hand versus right hand. So that is good, and they say they do seem to be the same. In my particular case, the original bodies don't have any kind of seal in the on the throttle spindle at all on either side. That's the way I bought the car, and I've been running it for the last 40 years. But the Saloon carbs that I'm now going to use do indeed have seals fitted. I think they're actually brilliant, but they're certainly better than none at all. So I've used those carb bodies to put back on the car after this rebuild. Next thing is the lifting pins. See on this one, for example, it's got an external spring on the lifting pin that's used for tuning the carbs, and that's not the case on the later versions. They all have the springs internally. The springs on the other side, it's inside the casting. I mean, it's effectively the same. The function is the same, but that is different. And there also seem to be differences in the rubber seals and the washers and so on, which I've done a separate video on. But lifting pins is another issue. The pistons are different as well. On the SP, it has an AUC 2060, whereas on the Saloon it seems to be a 1332. But they look to be functionally the same. One difference is the this stop here that just holds the piston off the throttle, the venturi. On the later ones, such as this, it's a plastic stop, whereas on the original SP it's a brass stop, which seems to be pressed in. It's not adjustable, but that is different. The other thing that's different is the needles. This is the TS needle on the SP. This one on the Saloon, it's a C1 needle apparently. So that's certainly different. Also the springs. I've got new springs. On the SP they're yellow. You can see that, but there is actually some yellow paint on the end. And on the Saloon, they're certainly different. I'm not sure what the part number is or the difference precisely, but there certainly are different between the Saloon and the SP. Next, the Saloon has a plastic thumb screw on the top for the damper. The SP, or at least my SP, has a brass one, obviously an earlier version. This is my original SP pot, and it's got a single boss here on the side, but inside there's no drilling at all. It's just a closed cylinder, and equally down here there's no drilling into this damper area, whereas on the Saloon, which is this one, there are two bosses which are actually slightly bigger as well. If you can see that, they stand further off the body of the pot, but also one of them is drilled, so there's a drilling through which comes out into the damper area. There's obviously a sort of pressure relief in above the damper piston, which is a modification that they obviously made for the later cars and the Saloon in particular. But I say mine doesn't have that, so I'm sticking with the original design. So the needles are different. I believe that the diaphragm down here and the jet down there are the same. As far as I can tell, the float chambers are the same. The Saloon's got an AUC 2062 part number on it, whereas the original SP one doesn't seem to have a number at all. But they look identical with the drilling and the plug at the end. So that seems to be fine. Again, something else I've mentioned in another video is the caps. I mean, these need to be different. Well, they don't need to be different, but they are different. The Saloon's got these brass connectors, 90-degree, whereas the SP just had plain copper pipes, or brass pipes rather, with rubber hoses between them. So yeah, that's a difference certainly, but otherwise they're essentially the same with the overflow. Part numbers are different. This one is 923, AUD 923, whereas this one is AUC 410L, and there's an R obviously. And these float levers are actually different because the heights of these pillars are different, as I mentioned in a previous video. So these aren't interchangeable. But yeah, also the instructions for setting the float height are different between the Saloon and the SP, because obviously this you're supposed to put a rod of a particular diameter through here across the top of the cap and set this accordingly. But so the diameter of the rod that you would use would be different for the Saloon versus the SP. So that's different as well. So this is a Saloon manifold, which is different from the SP again. It looks like the casting, the essential basic casting is the same, but it's just machined differently. Maybe. Anyway, the SP has a stub on here, which a hose goes onto. It doesn't have these studs, and it doesn't have the hole. It just has a tubular boss on it. On that side, on the back side, the SP, this is just plugged off, whereas on the Saloon, it's got this little spigot on it, which obviously connects to the heater somehow, I guess. So the other difference is this throttle bracket, and this for the spring and so on. And say on the Saloon, it has these two bosses on the back, threaded. So I don't know what they're for, but I guess they're probably for the air clean or something. But on the SP, they're simply not there. It's just a plain version of the same thing. This hole is also moved, this oil hole, slightly, but otherwise they look to be pretty much identical. They've just modified the casting and machined these threads. All the linkages look to be the same, so they are interchangeable with the SP. The vacuum takeoff little part there, that seems to be the same between the two engines, the Saloon and the SP, and the floats are identical. Otherwise, as far as I can tell, all the parts are the same. All these levers are the same, and this choke lifting rod is the same. So yeah, a lot of interchangeable parts, but on the other hand, they are actually surprisingly different between the Saloon and the SP250. Obviously, the carburetors evolved over the life of the engine, the little V8, and I suppose improved and adjusted to suit the style of the car, between a two-seater sports car and a saloon car with an automatic gearbox in general, and fuel economy and all those sorts of things, emissions, I guess, perhaps even in those days. But it has evolved over time. Anyway, I'm going to get these carbs back on the car, get them connected up and tuned up, and hopefully enjoy the car this summer. Perhaps surprisingly, these little tags which go on the top of the float chambers, it's AUD 180L on this one, that's AUD 180R of course, but those are the same on the SP pair of carburetors as the Saloon, so maybe they are completely interchangeable as a complete assembly. They're functionally the same. Maybe there isn't much of a difference between the sort of tuning, state of tune for the Saloon versus the state of tune for the sports car. Anyway, so those numbers do indeed seem to be the same. So maybe it is just production engineering and value engineering changes between the as the carburetors evolved through through Daimler and into Jaguar.